So let's start with the different other methods like we already have did the HTTP GET method, right? I have given you a few examples on that as well. So probably you guys have done that. Now let me start with the next kind of HTTP method, and that is the HTTP delete method. So using a web service, if someone is requesting to delete a record inside the Salesforce, right? Inside any of the object, like inside any of the object. So how to cache that parameter and then how we could perform the deletion operation, right? For that, there's a method called as HTTP delete method. So let me show you the use case. We am having two use cases for that. So what we will be doing is like, we will first of all understand this whole concept with the help of the use case. That would be, I think that would be a much better thing. So let's create a web service. Like what kind of web service? The web service which can actually remove the records from the Salesforce object. Now it could be any object, right? It could be any object. So you just require to understand here what exactly is the logic. Like if we wanted, for example, with the with the last program, what we learned is like how we can get the required data. If for example, if we are supplying, if we, with the first example that was very simple, what we get like all of the account record or probably all of the new cases record, that is what we have fetched. So how exactly to get the data? How exactly you should get the data, and then the different scenarios for that. Like in the first program, what we have seen, uh, how we can get the complete list of the account record. I mean the complete record from any of the object. Second, what we have seen, like we have make certain changes in the SQL and we make it a little bit precise. Like if instead of getting instead of getting all of the data from the case, let's only get those records whose case who are the new cases. I mean, where the case is actually the status is actually new. So that was a little bit of a specialization what we applied. And then we go for with the parameters. Like if, for example, if somebody is supplying a parameter, right? If someone is supplying the name, if someone is supplying the ID or some other kind of parameter, so how exactly we can collect it first of all? So what we learn is like something called as REST context class, right? So the REST context class is used to collect the parameters. I mean, it's actually have two things. The first one is the request, the second is the response. Response पे तो कभी अभी आने का हूँ मैं. With the post method we are coming to this. What we did in the last program was about like REST request कैसा काम करता है, right? So whenever you are requesting something, this REST request is an inner class, and that always return a map collection. That always return a map collection, map of a string comma string. So the kind of parameter over here is like REST request, REST context dot request and dot params. So params exactly is what? It's a property. That property will going to return you whatever you are supplying, the parameter with the URL mapping what we are doing. I mean the URL what with which are supplying the parameter, and it actually used to collect that parameter, right? So that we have done. So what we completed so far was HTTP GET method. HTTP GET method, right? The method was actually GET. Now, let's move further to learn a new thing. If certainly we wanted to delete something from the Salesforce object, if we wanted to delete something from the Salesforce object, if a user is supplying, for example, if user is supplying the name or else user is supplying something else, example ID of a record, and we certainly wanted to delete that record. So how this is possible? So for that, there is a method called as HTTP delete method. Okay, so let's understand how we can do that. So create a web service to remove the hiring manager. So I'm creating a class for that. First of all, I'm creating a new class, an Apex class with this name, HTTP hiring manager services. Okay, and now let's make this class as a global class, and what other things it's require, right? What other things it require? Let's do everything. So because we are making this class as a web service, right? As a web service, we are projecting this class. So this class must be a global class, because if you wanted to make it as a web service, that is something which is going to be get accessible. That is something which is going to be get accessible from outer world. The class must be a global class. Okay, and because this one is a web service, so I'm making this as a REST resource. Every REST resource itself means it's a web service, right? REST resource itself means that it's a web service. So when we are writing this, we should give that dummy name. We should give that kind of nickname for your web service. So for that, there's a keyword URL mapping, and for every web service you require to write down, right? For every web service you require to write it down. Okay. For every web service, you are required to write it down. So I'm giving a name like, HR services. You can give any name for that. That's perfectly fine. So I'm giving this name as HR services. Okay. So these are some of the basic initialization. Now everything inside this is the same business logic. Everything inside this is actually the same business logic. So what we are planning to do, let me copy that. Yeah. So this is our use case. This one is our use case. What we are planning with this web service, we are allowing user that if you wanted to delete some record, if you wanted to delete some record, if you wanted to delete some record, then you can do that. Then you can do that. So let me enter this inside the comment. So here what the user will be going to do is like, user is going to supply us the record ID. User in this case, the user will going to supply us what is going to supply us the record ID. So the record ID what he is going to supply in the request, the kind of request what he is going to make in the URL, he will be supplying us the record ID. What we require to capture that ID. We require to take that ID, and based on that ID, let's fire let's design an SQL and let's delete that record as well. Okay. For example, let's go to the hiring manager. There are so many records inside this object. If I press this all, there are so many records. Okay. So there's a record called as Anil Kumar Sharma. Anil Kumar Sharma. By the way, what's the record ID? This is the record ID of this record, Anil Kumar Sharma. And let's understand that the user is actually supplying us this ID. The user is actually supplying us this record ID. What we require to do is like the request what he is going to form. I mean the workbench itself. So I will going to do is like obviously सबसे पहले इसमें login करना पड़ेगा. I require to login into this, and then this. I mean in the last program we have done this. So go to the utilities and then go to the REST Explorer. Here you certainly require to write down this whole thing, right? Here you certainly require to write down the whole. So this is what this yeah, I here require to make this delete. First of all, I require, because I'm using delete method, and so I require to select the deletes and everything. So the request what you are making over here, here you require to supply this ID, and this web service should be capable. This web service should be capable to collect that ID, that hiring manager record ID. This web service should be capable to collect that ID, and based on that record ID, it should be able to delete this record. It should be able to delete this particular record. That is what our necessity is, right? That is what the requirement is. Anyways, so for that, because we wanted to delete something, so I'm using this class called as HTTP delete method, right? I'm using this method. So the method what I'm creating right now should provisionize this functionality via HTTP. You should delete something via HTTP. You should delete something. What is HTTP? The HTTP is the URL. So via URL, via HTTP, if you wanted to get, then it would be always be HTTP get, that we have done in the last program. Here we wanted to delete something via HTTP. If you wanted to delete something, the method what you should use, the method what you should always use is HTTP delete method, right? Let's go further. Let me create a method for that. The method obviously would also be global method, because this we are accessing out of the organization. This we are accessing from the web services. So global, and why I'm giving this return type as a string, you will be know that. Don't worry, you will know that. Why I'm giving this string as a return type, you will be know that in my further codes. So delete HR record. Delete HR record is the name of this method. You can give any name over here. And then what I will be doing is like, first of all, let me get this parameter. That's very essential, because I just wanted to delete only that record whose record ID has been given, right? In the request, the record ID what I received, I just wanted to collect that ID. So what I'm doing over here is like, first of all, make a map collection, map of string dot string, map of, because I'm requesting something, that request map of string comma string. Give any name to for that. We usually give this name like input params, params, input params equals to. Now give that name of the class rest context is the name of that parent class. That have two inner classes, request and response. Here what you want, do you wanted to give response on something? No, I actually wanted to collect some, something is coming from the request, and that's the reason I wanted to collect that. Something is coming from the request, right? What it is coming? The ID is coming. The ID of the hiring manager record, which we wanted to delete, that is coming. So I wanted to request something, and so I'm selecting this request. Now, what do you wanted to request? What do you wanted to request? There's a property. Unfortunately, it's not listed out over here. I don't know what's the reason for that. But there's a property called as params. There's a property called as params. So what I'm requesting you to give me the params. That parameter, what is coming, that parameter, that input, what is coming through the request. Okay, through the request, that parameter, that input, that string, what is coming. Okay, I just wanted to collect that. And so this is always going to give a key value pair. We learn that when we learn the REST context. The REST context will always return you a key value pair. So whenever you wanted to store something, a key, and along with the value, we always prefer the map collection. That's why the return type. That's why the return type is actually what it's your map collection, right? So this is how I actually have collected. This is how actually I have collected this parameter. Now this parameter is actually an ID. This parameter actually is an ID. So what I'll be doing is, like, I'm defining one more string variable, because that's an hiring manager record ID. So I'm defining one kind of variable over here. The name HR string record ID, and I'll be collecting that ID from here. So input params dot for example get. Now I'm giving the name of the key. The key name should always be similar. The key name should always be similar to your request. Short here. So here I'm using this. Here I am using this like this. The same thing should always come. The same thing should come from here as well. वो देखते हैं अपन. Don't worry. वो देखते हैं अपन. Okay. So what I collected out of this request, out of the parameter, what is stored inside this collection, I just collected the ID. I just collected the ID, and I have stored it inside one of the variable. I stored it inside one of the variable HR record ID, right? तो क्या किया मैंने, फिर से एक बार समझ लो. First of all, I requested the parameter. मैंने parameters को request किया. So what is the parameter that is coming in the input? Okay, let me collect that parameter. Let me collect that parameter. What is that? Okay, it's asking for the return. Anyways, so that's not the issue. ये return के लिए बोल रहा है. ये error जो है अभी मैंने देखा नहीं है, but I'm sure it's actually about missing return statement, obviously. So that's not the issue. Don't worry about that. Okay, मैं return करने वाला ही हूँ. Yeah. So what I did over here is, like, what I did is, first thing, I, with the REST context, and with the request, I requested at the parameters, whatever the parameters, and that is stored inside one of the map collection input params. So what I did is, I go ahead and, I ask out of these two things, out of these things, whatever is there, I just wanted to get the ID. I just wanted to get the ID. So get actually is a method you learn it for the map collection. You learn it for the map collection. Whenever you wanted to get something, precisely the value you wanted to get. You wanted to get the value. So there's a method get, and instead, inside the get, as a parameter, you should always give the key. You should always give the key. Okay. So the key name would always be like ID. That is what the assumption, because that is something what we are requesting, right? So against the ID, what is the value? So what is the value of that ID? Get method will always return the value. Get method will always return the value, but you require to give the name of ID over here. So what is that? What is that key? What is that key that you require to mention, and the value is going to return, right? If you just go with some if you are finding this a little bit confusing, what you can do is, like, go back and revise map collection. What we should always give inside the get collection. So whenever we are giving get, let's understand that once again. If you are giving get, so see, get me, you just require to mention the name of key. Although you are mentioning the name of key, but it's going to return you the value. Because in the map there is two things, key and value. Key and value. Inside this get collection, you require to give the name of key. You require to give the name of key. But it is not going to give you the name, it's not returning you the value. It's not returning the key name. Rather, it's giving you the value against that key. If you remember that example, red and apple, red and cherry, yellow is orange. So what I used to mention, for example, if I'm mentioning, if I'm mentioning over here, if I'm mentioning as yellow. So whatever the map collection that we defined that time, so yellow was something like, I think it was mango. So this method would going to return me. This method would going to return me mango. This method will going to return me the mango. Why? Because I'm mentioning the key name as yellow. So against the key yellow, what is the value? It was mango. Okay, so that is what it's going to return. That is what it was going to return me. So inside the get, inside the get method, we always required to give the name of your key. So here the key name is ID. So against that ID, what is the value that this is going to return? And that I'll be storing this inside one of the variable, right? I defined one string variable for that. That's HR record ID, and inside this I'm storing. Now this is the variable, and this value actually I'll be using inside my query, So let me design a query for that. So list of, for example, okay, why I'm taking this? I can do directly one thing, I can just to minimize the code. Inside the delete statement, I can directly give the query, right? Because I wanted to delete. Why should I require? I mean, why should I define a collection, store the result inside the collection, and then delete the collection? So it's a quite lengthy process. I can minimize that in a single line. That inside the delete statement, I could directly write down my query. So select what ID, because you are deleting, you just require to select the ID, and if you want it, you can go further and select the name from. Okay, here I should require the name of the hiring manager, the object hiring manager. So it's hiring manager underscore underscore C, hiring underscore manager underscore C. That is what the name. But I usually don't take chance. I mean the writing. So select ID and the name from the hiring manager. Do you wanted to make a random selection? No, no, no. I wanted where the ID should equals to dynamic assignment. What? HR record ID. HR record ID. So the user supplied ID, user supplied ID. That is what, and I'm deleting that record. Now after deleting, I wanted to pass uh, one string, return one string, record, record, deleted. Okay. This is the string that I wanted to pass. And so the return type I have given over here is string. That's for the reason I was telling. ये थोड़ा सा रुक जाओ. Let me first of all write down this program. You will be understanding why I have given the return type as a string. As a string, why I have given that, right? So after deleting this, I mean, first of all, this query will going to collect that particular record, right? That particular record for which the ID has given in the request. So it's going to collect that. And based on that, based on this is going to return only one record. That record would going to be get deleted. And after delete, I will be just returning one message. I'll be displaying one message to the screen just for the acknowledgement purpose, just for the acknowledgement purpose that the particular record that for the ID you have supplied, right? That record has been deleted. You can customize the message as well. I'm just keeping this simple because that's we just understand the logic. That is the only thing which is required. Okay, so now let's execute that. Let's execute that. So for the execution, we require to first of all log in into the workbench, right? And here after services, you require to write down something called as apex rest. Apex rest. You're calling apex rest, right? After that, now you give the name of your web service. Web service name I have given is HR services. So I'm copying it, I'm pasting, and here I wanted to give the parameter, right? Parameter as an ID. So I'm writing this question mark symbol, and this is very essential. See, this is it's a case sensitive thing. It's a case sensitive thing. So even if you are writing like this, if you're making this is going to again give you the error. I'll show you that. By today, I'll show you that. Now let me give the ID as well. So the ID of Anil Kumar. The ID of Anil Kumar is this. So let me copy this ID and paste it over here. Okay. And my method name is delete. So don't forget to select the method as well, right? By default, it's always get. So you require to make the selection because the method name over here is delete. Okay, the method name over here is delete, and so select this radio button, and now click this execute, and now click this execute. Okay, so you can now see that this record is deleted, and this is the way actually the response comes in the form of JSON. This response actually comes in the form of JSON like this only. So probably you guys were expecting कि ये एक line में आएगा, but actually this is not the way with your workbench. Workbench, whenever there is a string in the response, it actually gets splitted character by character in the new line. That is what the way of a workbench to give the response back to you, right? So we can now say that this record has been deleted. Now if you wanted to confirm that, you can go and refresh this. There's no record, there's no record with this name. And let me now show you one more thing. For example, if we have a record called as Kashish Chaudhary, and I'm actually copying the record ID. Okay, copying the record ID and I'm pasting it over here. One second. I'm pasting it over here, but this time actually I'm making one mistake. I'm making this ID to be looks like this, right? And let's try to execute this. Let's try to execute like see what happened. What happened? One second. Actually, this is something which is previous response has been loaded. What about this? Yeah, record is still is there. That means it's not deleted, right? You can see the record is still there. It's not deleted. I just wanted to clear this one second. Okay, fine. So ADF, ATF, yeah. So this is the record ID, and I wanted to delete this. But inside you can see I make certain changes in the key. The key name, I'm making certain changes. I'm trying to execute this. Why it is actually showing with this? Yeah. Yes. Okay, although probably yeah, because I haven't written any cache block. Yeah, yeah, exactly, got it. I mean, I have not written any cache block. I mean, ideally what should happen is like I should write down this inside the try. That मैं बताने वाला हूँ आपको. Exception handling is a topic that we are learning after this has been over. So I should rather write down this inside the try और उसके बाद में मुझे cache में लिखना चाहिए, because I haven't mentioned that. So although it is giving me the response, okay, record is deleted, but then you can find that I mean this operation has not been performed. This operation not being has committed, because we can still in the Salesforce find out this record with the same ID, right? Now let me try to do this one thing like this. Let me go. So this is something, the key name is actually what it's case sensitive. Let me now once again execute this. So this is the record it's mentioning, and let's now try. Now your record has been deleted. So because I haven't created any cache block, that was the reason it was giving me the response back like record deleted. Although nothing has been happened in the Salesforce, right? So this key name what you are supplying should always match with your coding. Should always match with your coding. So if you are making any sort of changes, even in the case sense, this one is actually a case sensitive information. So it should exactly match, the key name should exactly match how it has been written in your request, right? That is what the thing you should maintain. So this was one of the example, this was one of the example, and you have seen that like how we can delete the record with HTTP delete method. Okay. So here what I supplied, sorry, what I supplied is the ID, and let me supply the name as well. Let's do it. Let's do one more program for that, and yeah, I probably have written that as well. Okay, what is next? Create a web service to remove the related contact record from the object based on the specified account name. That means someone is supplying account name. In the request, the user is going to supply the account name. So let me go to that. For example, Arpit Tripathi. Let me see whether this record has any associated contact. No, it's don't have. Okay, so go back to the account and let me put Skyline. Does have any? Ouch. I'll do one thing, I'll create one. I'll do one thing. I'll create the related contact for that. So contact for Raghav. Contact for Raghav, and let me save this. Okay. So there's an account record. By the way, there's an account record with the name Raghav Sharma. There is an account record, and this account record have a related contact with. Now, what we are deleting, we are not deleting account. In this example, try to understand the use case. Create a web service to remove the related contact. I mean, we are just removing the contact that to be related to that account. So if the account, I mean, the account name is something which is going to come inside your request. Inside the request, account name is going to be received. What we will be doing is like, we will be firing a query, and we will be fetching based on this account, we will be fetching the related contact, right? We'll be fetching the related contact, and then we are going to delete that contact record. So that is what the use case is, right? Okay. So let me create a class for that. The class name contact deletion services. So let me create that as well. So I'm creating a new class. With this name, I'm creating a class. Let's now make this class as a web service. So first thing what is required over here is like, web service class should always be global, and make it a REST resource area. So URC REST resource with URL mapping. With URL mapping equals to URL mapping equals to, now give the name as, you can give any name over here. Delete contact. Okay. Delete contact. That is what the name I'm giving. You can give any name. Now, let me create a method for that. So method is actually to perform the delete operation, and so I'm writing this HTTP delete, HTTP delete. Okay, because the method will going to perform the deletion operation. So global, that method should always be global, and static method, and this will also going to return you one of the string messages. So like string, the return type would be string, and now give any name like remove related contact. Okay, related contact. Right. Now, first of all, get the parameters. Yeah, from the request, get the parameters. So it's always map of string comma string. Map of string comma string. And give any name for that. Input params is a very common thing that we usually give input. PARAMS. Input params equals to, now the same format, rest context dot request dot params. Okay. So this is going to give me the parameter whatever is being supplied, and I can do one thing over here is like with the previous program I stored it inside a string variable. That is one thing. That is one thing. Now how many parameters? See, there's one possibility actually. There's one possibility over here. I mean, ठीक है वो कर सकते हैं अपन वो string वाला कर सकते हैं. That is not the thing. ये अलग मैं बता रहा हूँ. There's one possibility. मतलब हो सकता है ना एक नाम से एक से ज्यादा अकाउंट हो सकते हैं. Even we have seen this. I mean, just now I have seen this. This could be possible. This could be entirely possible. Let me go with all accounts. Uh, I don't have that thing to demonstrate, but this is something which is possible, I think. What is that? Just record number one. So instead of collecting, what I just wanted to say is like, this is one of the possible thing, because account में duplicacy रहती है. Account में duplicacy, contact में duplicacy रहती है. So what I can do is over here, I mean, instead of collecting this side a variable या फिर directly उसको करने के बजाय, let's first of all form a list collection for that, है ना? A list of contact. या फिर ऐसा भी तो हो सकता है, I mean, if it is not like this, if it is not like this, then this could be, चलो ये नहीं हो सकता है, तो फिर second possibility पर अगर मैं बात करूँ तो this could also possible, जैसे कि if I go with the Grand Hotels Resort. See, for this single account, there are multiple contacts, right? There are multiple contacts, and this happens very, I mean, this is a very common case. You can probably see this with some other account as well. So let's go with all accounts once again. Edge communication. Let me try to open this. Okay, here as well you can see, like, for this account there are multiple contacts. So when there's a possibility that a single account could have multiple contacts, so what I should collect it inside the list collection. That's why I know, that's why I'm actually making a use of list collection, list of contacts specifically. LST contacts equals to, now you require to fire a query. So what select? ID I wanted to select, and I wanted to select, for example, first name, and for example I would like to select the last name as well. So last name, and then what else? Yeah, account, most important. Account dot name. Account dot name. Okay. So I'm selecting all these. I'm selecting all this from the contact object. Where exactly? From the contact. From the contact. But where the account dot name should be inside your parameter. Should be inside your parameter that is being supplied from the user. तो वहां से अपने को लेना है ना, वहां से अपने को लेना है. तो what I was trying to tell you is like कि आप चाहो तो ऐसा एक string variable लेके, what else you can do is like, you can take a string variable जो पिछले प्रोग्राम में किया मैंने, ठीक है, प्रोग्राम में किया, जैसे acc name equals to input params. What else you can do is like, I mean, in the last program we did this, and then dot get of what, params, जो params के साथ में जो name आया होगा, ठीक है, get of name, that is what you can do, like name. ऐसा हम assume करते हैं कि name आया हुआ है, एक तो ये possibility होती है इसकी, देखो, ठीक है. So in that case what I will be returning is, where the account name is clearly like this, ऐसा भी दे सकता हूँ मैं. This is one of the form, ठीक है, this is one of the form. The second is like, this is actually not the best practice. Why? Because just giving this parameter name, you are actually using one more line. What else you can do is like, you can directly give it like this. You can directly give it like this. So make yourself understand with these two methods. But the best practice is the second one, what we are doing right now. Okay, we just wanted to have the name, right? So why we are collecting that name? We just wanted to have the parameter, actually, not name. Inside my query, I just wanted to fire the query based on the parameter, right? So why you are getting the parameter and you are storing this? I mean, this makes the logic simple. That's a good thing. It makes the logic simple, right? It makes your query to look like simple. But we are actually, I mean, there's no necessity to collect it inside a variable, one temporary variable, and give the name. You can, for the simplicity, that's good. Okay, fine. For the simplicity, that good. But otherwise, your SQL is capable. SQL is capable to fire this statement inside the SQL itself. So what it will going to do is like, it will first of all collect that parameter with the name. Name is the key, actually. Name is key. Then what is the value of that? That's the value. It's going to collect that, and it will be out of all of the contact records. It will going to fetch only those contact whose the account name get related with this, right? So the related contact for this account, will going to be get fetched. That is what the query will going to return. So if, for example, for the account like Grand Hotel, there are two contacts, so that is going to be fetched over here. That is going to be fetched. And now what we want, we just wanted to delete that, right? After that, the code is simple. So what you wanted, you just wanted to delete it. So delete what? Delete your LST contacts. Delete your LST contacts. And after this deletion, let's return one statement. Return. Okay, let's return one statement that your data is deleted. That's simple. Contacts, related contact. Related contacts are deleted like this, right? Like this. Let me now save this code. So I have shown you these two methods, like, when you wanted to supply the parameter, what you have received. So there are two ways, like, for the simplicity purpose, you can go like this. Like, otherwise, always know that your SQL is capable, SQL is capable that you can directly ask for the input param.get inside the query itself. Okay. So that's really up to you कि आप इसमें से दोनों styles में से कौन सा prefer करोगे. If you ask me, I'll prefer this. I'll prefer this, right? That's what my decision. Okay, so let me delete the contact. Let me call this. So inside my REST Explorer, let me first of all refresh this once again. Okay, so the name of the service is this time is like this, and the parameter name is name. Parameter name is name. So in the question, I'm giving this, like, after question mark, I'm giving name, and name equals to. Let me now give the name. So Raghav Sharma was that record, right? Yeah. Raghav Sharma have this contact for Raghav. So let's do one thing. Copy the name of Raghav Sharma. Okay. So the name what I have given over here is Raghav Sharma, and right now we can see that Raghav Sharma have this contact. Let's now execute this. So one change what you can see over here is in the request itself. The white space has been resumed with a plus symbol. Like there was a space between Raghav and Sharma after requesting, or before requesting it actually being converted Raghav plus Sharma. And I mean the response what you received is like, related contact records deleted. So let's verify this thing from the Salesforce and let me refresh this window. I can see that there is no more contact that are associated with this, right? So your web service has done a perfect thing. Okay, your web service has done a perfect thing. So ठीक है, आज इतना ही करो. एक वक्त में एक ही मेथड पे काम करो. That would help you out to understand this clearly, right? So today evening probably I could also take a class. I mean, I से तो भाई 4 बजे का appointment है मेरा आज. I need to take my mom to doctor. So if I come back early, if I come back early, I probably could announce your batch at 6 in the evening, right? In the evening, I could announce your batch at 6. Okay, so please have a watch on your code. So if the next lecture, I'll be starting this post method. There are a few things only left. Post batch, the post is left, and the put is left, and the batch is left, right? These are the only three things that is left with this. After this, OAuth authentication, and after OAuth authentication, your entire integration would be done. After OAuth authentication, the integration would be done. I'll be taking up, see, what I'm taking after this is deployment. And after deployment, I already have prepared your notes and everything so that, I can take it continuity. अभी 2 दिन तक आपके बैठ के notes निकाल लिया है मैंने. So in continuity to this, I'll be taking OAuth authentication. After integration, we will be taking deployment, and then one lecture I'm planning to give you one lecture about the lightning experiences. That would again help you out, if you find how to use the lightning environment. So I'm actually planning to give you one lecture on that as well, right? And one more thing which is left from my side was like approval. uh, when you submit a record for the approval, so how the approval process actually works. So what I will be doing is like, I'm going to take this lecture for 20 batch. For 20 batch, I'll actually planning this lecture. So whenever I'll be taking that approval process inside the Salesforce, how to put a record for the approval and how to set up the approval process and everything, how to make it automated and everything. So there will be two things, like, I'll be announcing that I'm going to take this lecture by today or by yesterday or by tomorrow, whatever. So you guys can join that. Otherwise, I'm going to provide the recording. I'll be sharing that recording inside your drive as well. So whenever I do that, I'm going to acknowledge you for that as well. So ये कुछ चीजें हैं अभी. जिसमें से मैं आपको अभी इसके बाद में आई एम कंप्लीटिंग योर डिप्लॉयमेंट, अभी ओऑथ वगैरह हो जाता है, दैट मीन्स योर एंटायर इंटीग्रेशन इज कंप्लीटेड। माय डिप्लॉयमेंट के लिए प्रोबेबली वी आर गोइंग टू रिक्वायर 2 लेक्चर्स, नॉट मोर देन दैट। एक लेक्चर और लगेगा आपको फॉर for learning this, for understanding the lightning environment, ठीक है। So after completing OAuth, it would be a matter of 3 to 4 lectures hardly, and your entire syllabus is going to be get completed, okay।